Welcome back, guys. So before we get into chapter 2, I want to talk about the answers to your questions from chapter 1. So your first question was, how old are Jack and Annie? So these are really two questions because Jack and Annie are not the same age. So first we need to answer how old is Jack, and then we need to answer how old is Annie. If you listen to the first page, Jack said that he was hanging out with his 7-year-old sister. So that would tell us that Annie is 7 years old. Okay? And if when we read further on, we found out that Jack is 8.5. So they're really close in age, but Jack is the older sibling. Okay? What did Annie find in the woods? Annie found the treehouse. Okay? And filling in the blank, that must be the blank. Treehouse in the blank, said Annie. Her quote was, that must be the tallest treehouse in the world. Okay? And number 4, why didn't Jack want Annie to go in the treehouse? This one you had to listen closely for it. But Jack said that we shouldn't go in it because we don't know who it belongs to. So he didn't think she should go in because it wasn't their treehouse. And number 5, what was the treehouse filled with? Books. Remember Annie poked her head out and she yelled books? Because the treehouse was filled with books. Okay, so I hope you did okay on those questions. Let's get into chapter 2, the monster. Jack crawled into the treehouse. Wow, he said, the treehouse was filled with books. Books were everywhere. Very old books with dusty covers and new books with shiny bright covers. Look, said Annie, you can see far away. She was peering out the treehouse window. Jack looked out the window with her. Below were the tops of the other trees. In the distance, she could see the Frog Creek Library and the elementary school and the park. Annie pointed in the other direction. There's our house, she said. Annie was right. Jack could see their white wooden house with its green porch. In the yard next door was their neighbor's black dog, Henry. He looked very tiny. Hi, Henry, shouted Annie. Shh, we're not supposed to be up here, said Jack. Jack glanced around the treehouse again. He noticed that bookmarks were sticking out of many of the books. I wonder who owns all these books, he said. I like this one, said Annie. She picked up a book with a castle on the cover. Here's a book about Pennsylvania, said Jack. He turned to the page with the bookmark. Hey, here's a picture of Frog Creek, said Jack. It's a picture of these woods. Ooh, here's a book for you, said Annie. She held up a book about dinosaurs. A blue silk bookmark was sticking out of it. Let me see, said Jack. He set his backpack down on the floor and grabbed the book from Annie. Okay. You look at that one and I'll look at the one about castles, said Annie. No, we'd better not, said Jack. We don't know who these books belong to. But even as he said this, Jack was opening the dinosaur book to where the bookmark was. He couldn't help himself. Jack turned to a picture of an ancient flying reptile. He recognized it as a pterodon. He touched the huge bat-like wings in the picture. Wow, whispered Jack. I wish we could go to the time of the pteranodons. Jack studied the picture of the odd-looking creature soaring through the sky. Ah! Screamed Annie. What? Said Jack. A monster! Annie cried. She pointed out the treehouse window. Stop pretending, Annie, said Jack. No, really, said Annie. Jack looked out the window. A giant creature was gliding above the tree tops. It had a long, weird crest on the back of its head, a skinny beak, and a huge bat-like wings. It was a real, live pteranodon. The creature swooped through the sky. It looked like a glider plane. It was coming straight toward the treehouse. Get down! Cried Annie. Jack and Annie crouched on the floor. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Okay, that's the end of chapter 2. So while you're listening, you should have heard the answers to these 3 questions. If you need to go back and rewatch the chapter, you can. Number 1, what are 3 places that Jack and Annie saw from the treehouse when they were looking out? What could they see? Number 2, what kind of book did Annie give Jack? Number 3, what was sticking out of the book? And number 4, inside Jack's book was a picture of a what? A caveman, a pteranodon, a T-Rex, a poodle. Number 5, describe Annie's monster, the one that she saw out the window. And number 6, what did the treehouse start to do? Okay? All right, I will see you next time for chapter 3.